So, good afternoon, everybody. I thank Dr. Rajiv for giving me this opportunity to come here and discuss some of our recent developments in this crop of flax or linseed. So far, you have heard about all probably economically important crop plants like wheat, rice, legumes, and so on, which are probably production-wise and consumption-wise very high volume crops. However, the description that I'm going to give now is about a crop which is volume-wise very small, but probably importance-wise, especially the nutritional importance-wise, it is extremely high. The crop that I'm going to talk is linseed. Which is probably the earliest domesticated crop. Both nutritionally and industrially, this is important crop. Especially nutritionally, it is important crop because of its unique fatty acid composition as compared to all the oil crops. It has very high proportion of omega-3 fatty acid, that is alpha-linolenic acid, and the ratio of omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acid is appropriate in this crop. Before it was used as an oilseed crop, it was actually used as a fiber crop and was mostly developed as a fiber crop. However, now it is also considered as a good crop from the protein point of view, as well as the lignans, the secondary metabolites, which are considered as the health products. It is very rich in these lignans, especially the HDG secondary metabolite. So it is a very nutritionally important crop. But if we look at the agriculture, and this is true not only in India but almost all over the world, very less efforts have been given to this crop for its improvement. In India, it is winter crop, although among the important countries where flax is routinely grown, area-wise India is number 1. But if we really look at the yield, productivity and the production, probably it is the last among all these countries. And that is mostly because of the varieties are, the native varieties that are grown have very low productivity. Not only that, they are very much susceptible to various diseases like blight, wilt, rust, as well as the insect fly. And because of that, the production and area under this crop is shrinking in India. Overall, it is highly neglected crop worldwide as well as within India. So there have been various requirements of this crop where immediate attention needs to be given. As it is a very important nutritionally important oil rich crop, maybe the major emphasis needs to be given to the omega-3 fatty acid content and the lignin content, and all the efforts need to be taken for that. And for that, maybe the breeding objectives need to be set for this crop. However, to carry out this in a shorter period of time, we need to have the genomic resources for this, which are lacking almost, I would say, till the last 5 years. These resources were not available for this crop. The health benefits, although it has been mentioned, the real evidences for these health benefits into the animal models also need to be given. So overall, there are various challenges for this crop where we need to give lot of inputs. In my lab, we have focused more towards the omega-3 fatty acid and lignin content, for which mostly the development of the genetic and genomic resources, that is what we have presently focused on. Naturally, for this development of the markers, varied kind of markers becomes the most important objective, since even the draft genome sequence of flax was not available till 2012. So what we did was we tried to develop the genomic SSR markers, and for that we make the microsatellite enriched libraries, Instead of making libraries, we did the amplicons using varied methods, and those amplicons, pooled amplicons, we used for sequencing using the 454 pyrosequencing platform. And these sequences were almost 8.8 million base pairs was the total read, out of which we could put them into the 36,000 contigs, the sequences, and we could get about 5,000 contigs, amongst which 1,100 were the sequences which contained the microsatellites, from which we developed 350 genomic SSR markers. We have designed the primers and have used these for the mapping population as well as for the core collections. Interestingly, when we screened these three different ways of enriching the microsatellites, we found this method Fiasco was the best to give us more microsatellites. Whatever the microsatellites we obtained, we obviously screened them for or characterized them for the presence of various dinucleotide, trinucleotide repeats, and we also screened the polymorphism potential using the diverse genotypes that were available within India. These markers we have also used for the core collection analysis. By the time the ESTs were getting collected into the database, which we used to find out the EST SSRs, almost 3 lakh or 0.3 million ESTs were available in the database, which we screened to get the almost 800 different EST SSRs. We developed those EST SSRs, looked at the transferability of this into the closely related plant species. However, it was noticed that the transferability of these EST SSRs to the other closely related species is very, very low. This looked to be very unique to Linum, that is linseed only. And they show much, whatever about 6 to 7% which are transferable to other genomes also, they show variation in their sizes. So to use these for the core collection analysis, we had to first develop the core collection. If we really see all over the world, there are 3 major centers, this Canada, Russia, and France, they have the, or Germany, they have the core collections. Almost 45,000 different accessions have been collected in these 3 centers. Within India also, at Kanpur, the project coordinating unit also, we have almost 3,000 collection of different land races. Majority of these are land races. Apart from that, also the breeding lines and other varieties have been included. In that, about 16% of them are exotic in nature, which have been collected probably for 14 different countries other than India. The majority of the collection is from India. So these all 2,239 lines, these were analyzed for the phenotyping. 8 different parameters were used for the clustering purposes, and 12 other parameters which are qualitative in nature, which were also analyzed to screen this core population. And if we see, they showed, these 2,200 showed lot of variation in their characters in these 8 morphological or the quantitative characters. Apart from that, this crop being important for the oil, especially the omega-3 fatty acids, in our lab we carried out the GCMS analysis for the 5 fatty acids, linolenic acid being the most important one. We showed lot of variation in this population, in this collection. So this, the whole population, 2,000 population was clustered, and almost 20 different clusters were developed, and almost 10% of each of these clusters, they were spanning the entire diversity, were finally put into the core collection, making 222 as the Indian core collection. The core collection was also analyzed for those same 8 traits, and you could see that this core collection showed the complete spanning of the diversity as the entire collection. even for those 12 qualitative traits also, we could get the diversity represented into the core collection population. This core collection was used for the molecular analysis using SSR markers. 100 SSR markers were used for this. Out of them, only 34 markers showed us the polymorphism, which indicates that there is a less diversity that is available in the germplasm that we used for developing the core collection. This population, the core collection, was structured also. We could get a good structure, optimum structure using K2 values. By neighbor joining as well as the PC analysis also, we could get two clusters. Both these populations, they contain the exotic lines in them distributed into both the populations, indicating that the diversity is also contributed by the exotic germplasm and not only the Indian germplasm. In fact, the original germplasm collection had only 16% of the exotic germplasm, but when we analyze the core collection, almost 46% of it, the diversity has been contributed by the exotic germplasm, which again emphasizes the less diversity in the Indian germplasm that is available. This core collection we used for genome-wide association using the platform that has been established at the Cornell University. One of my students went there to carry out this work. It was, as noticed by many researchers, even in case of linseed, APMK1 was the enzyme, restriction enzyme, which gave us the fragments more in the range of 100 to 400 base pairs suitable for the Illumina platform. We could get 1.84 million reads using the 95 genotypes from the collection of 222 core population that we used. 95 of them were used for the GBS. Using the reference genome analysis, 38% of these could get aligned to the FLAX reference, that is the CDC Bethune that has been sequenced now at Canada. And we could get 72,000 SNPs from these 95 genotypes. And when we applied the stringent parameter of minimum allele frequency of 0.1, we could get about 13,280 SNPs. So this shows the density of 27 SNP, 1 SNP per 27 kilobase pair. When we looked at the distribution of the SNPs in the genome, we could get very good distribution of it. Almost 35% of them were in the downstream 5 kb of the genic regions and 5 kb of upstream as well as downstream of the genic regions, and almost similar in the either exonic, intronic or intergenic region, indicating that the SNPs could be used for both the QTL analysis, because we could get in the upstream and downstream of the genic region, as well as they can be used to study the candidate genes since they are within the genic region. So these we characterize them to see the decay, the linkage disequilibrium decay also, and we could notice that about average decay is 100 kbp, which is comparatively early, indicating that more SNPs are required. Maybe whatever 13,000 SNPs we have may not be enough, and we need to generate more SNPs in case of linseed. We use this to again analyze the population analysis we did, both doing the neighbor joining as well as the structure, and we could again get optimum structure with K2 value. And when we did the neighbor analysis, neighbor joining analysis also, we could see that it could distribute into two populations, with some of the populations, although originally belonging to population 1 going into the second and the second one going into the 1. So there are some admixtures seen. However, this indicates that the populations that we have could be used for the GWS analysis, which we tried to do, and we could get the associations for three traits, that is the capsule per plant, the technical plant height and plant height. 16 SNPs were for the capsule per plant, whereas 7 for plant height, technical plant height, and 1 for plant height. This shows their locations on the context and the substitutions in the nucleotides in these SNPs. Although this just indicates that the population as well as GBS can be used for the association mapping. In case of linseed, we really need to generate lot of data. We also need to carry out the phenotype analysis at the multiple locations in order to identify the stable QTLs. Since we had lot of interest in SDG, the secondary metabolite, and omega-3 fatty acid in this crop, biallelic mapping is also essential, and based on the phenotypes or the biochemistry that we have done, we are processing with the mapping populations, and these parents have been included in our GBS analysis. So eventually, once the RILs are ready, we will be able to produce more data with respect to these biallelic parent lines also. Now coming to the use of the draft genome sequence that is available now in case of linseed, we carried out a lot of multiple gene family analysis, because these could be used as again to develop SNPs also. So one of the important family, as we all know, which is involved in this resistance is NBS LRR gene family. So based on the 43,000 gene models that are from the draft sequence that is available, we screen for the NBS LRR containing gene families, genes, and we could get 114 such genes from the 43,000 gene models that were available for linseed. We characterize these for varied domains. Then the structural analysis was also done. How are these NBS classified? The structural comparisons were made with the Arabidopsis database, and except TNL A and C, others could match with the Arabidopsis gene sequences. However, for these two, probably they show quite a bit of variation. Phylogenetic analysis was also done, and as I mentioned, CNL and TNL4, these two seem to be not very highly matching with the Arabidopsis. Rest of the families could match with the Arabidopsis when we had the two peculiar groups in the neighbor joining analysis. These, since they are involved in disease resistance, we use them both in silico and the actual real-time analysis for their expression studies. When we use the EST database to see how many of these 114 genes could give us the expression, only 23% of these gave us the expression, among which this was highly expressed. Or when we actually carried out the real-time analysis by exposing the variety Iogi, which is supposed to be a disease-resistant variety, to the blight pathogen Alternaria linea and collecting the tissues at different time points after infection, we could get that this family G35350, that is the one which gave us the very high expression upon infection as compared to the control, and which sustained also up to 10 days. So we are more in the characterization of this gene as well as other genes. Other gene family that we have looked at is the lignan biosynthesis pathway. Lignan, these are nothing but the phytoestrogens. They are involved in having many health effects like anti-cancer, antioxidant activities are reported for this. In linseed SDG, secoisolaraceresinol, it is an alkaloid which is supposed to be in a high proportion, and that is the one which is responsible for all these health related activities. However, the bioavailability of these alkaloids is dependent on the glycosylation of these alkaloids, and in the glycosylation, if we really see the pathway, the last step where the glycosyl transferases are the enzymes which are involved in it, which are very specific, the substrate specific. They are the ones which are responsible for the glycosylation. So in this case, we were interested to look at this glycosyl transferase family, because once we isolate these enzymes, they could be used for the other plant metabolites for their glycosylation also. So we looked at the signature domain of these glycosyl transferases, that is PSPG box, and looked at the genome sequence and identified 134 different gene sequences, and this also just belonging to GTP family number 1. And this, the nomenclature was given by the UGT nomenclature authority at US, and we could get the 14 classes which are also reported in case of Arabidopsis. However, these 4 groups, they show quite a bit of sequence variation, and these 2, is one more I can't make out, sorry, here. These 2 seem to be flags diversified, completely different than the Arabidopsis. So these we used for the expression analysis using different tissues like ovaries, anthers, and the different developmental stages of seed, as well as the stem and root. And we could get the expression of almost all the UGTs into the flax tissues. Some of them we could get as duplicated genes having similar expression patterns, whereas some of them were different and some of them were duplicated but had no expression pattern. One of them had expression pattern, but the corresponding gene had no expression at all. When we did more in-depth analysis or the real-time analysis of this using the same tissue samples, we could get a particular UGT which was not expressing in any other tissue but only expressed during the development of the seed, and the secoisoryl UGT, which is responsible for the SDG formation, is expressed only in the seed. So we probably think we have a gene to work more on this. We have cloned this and expressed this into PCA cysteine, and we are in the process of characterizing this gene in more details to see if it is involved in the glycosylation of alkali. The third important is to look at the regulatory genes based on the sequence that is available. So what we did here, these microRNA genes, there is a database available, that is MIRBase is the database available. From that we looked at the micro sequences. We blasted them against the flax genome and identified almost 116 microRNA genes having the peculiar characteristics of microRNA. We did the characterization of these 114 genes from this family, like the transcription start site to the hairpin structure, as well as the poly-A sectors, the sizes, as well as the promoter analysis. We could get the 4 different gene families based on the promoter analysis. We carried out the expression analysis of some of these genes representing various classes. This again with different tissues, as I mentioned earlier. This is to find out if we have a very peculiar function or expression patterns of any of these microRNAs, and we could get some of these which are more expressed in the anthers but are not expressed in any other tissues. And we try to look at the targets of these microRNAs also, because targets are also extremely important. We identified the targets, total 479 targets we identified, and some of them we looked at the expression patterns also, and we could get these which are highly expressed in the anther. So if we look at their corresponding microRNAs, that is microRNA 154, that is expressed in all other tissues except anther, which indicates that probably those are the pairs which are really active in giving the post-transcriptional activity. We carried out these studies in order to see if the genes that are involved in the fatty acid synthesis, mostly the desaturate genes, based on our studies we have we have come to the conclusion that there is no doubt a transcriptional regulation of these genes, but also there is a post-transcriptional regulation. So probably microRNAs could be responsible for that additional function. Hence was the interest. Thus, we have carried out on these two lines mostly, or I mentioned about these two lines, that we have tried to develop some of the genomic resources in case of linseed, and we have looked at the multigene families for their organization into linseed. Apart from that, our interest is in the seed development, mostly for the fatty acids and the secondary metabolites. We have carried out the whole proteomic studies of the developmental stages of seed, and have also looked at the fatty acid desaturases of 10 different genotypes having the high alpha linolenic acid content and low linolenic acid content to see the transcriptional regulation of these desaturate genes which are involved in the fatty acid synthesis. And based on that, we realized that there is also transcriptional regulation, but post-transcriptional regulation also, and that's why these studies led to the multigene family studies in case of microRNA. There are many more studies we can do in case of linseed. We have just begun our studies. We wish to continue it further. These are different publications. Finally, I would like to acknowledge the team. This is a team at NCL in my lab. These are the 4 students who have worked on these projects and have produced the results. Apart from that, we have collaborators from College of Agriculture, Nagpur, Dr. Ghorpade, Abhay Harsulkar Irsha, he is involved in more of health related studies, Dr. Srivastav from Kanpur, and Raju Datla and Mike Devlis to make the draft sequence available to us before it was published. And finally, the funding agency, Department of Biotechnology, and my own head office, CSIR, for funding for this project. And finally, I thank you all. Thank you. Yeah, it is. It is highly self-pollinated, highly self-pollinated. Not even 1% of cross-pollination. Yeah, highly self-pollinated.
Are there any anti-nutritional factors in the linseed oil? Flax oil? Okay.
There are no anti-nutritional factors, but if you consume SDG in large quantities, then there are anti-nutritional effects seen. But if it is taken in appropriate proportion, they are very good for the nutrition. That's why if you see traditionally linseed was a very ideal food for us. We used to have in the form of chutney which we consume just 1 spoon of it per day. And now the many animal studies have been done with linseed powder, and it shows that you should not go beyond 5 grams per day, the seed powder. So little less than spoon you should have every day.
Is oil consumed by human? Oil? Linseed oil? That has no problem?
No. Linseed, in fact, linseed oil has alpha-linolenic acid. But because it has alpha-linolenic acid in such a high proportion, the rancidity is more. So you cannot keep the oil for a long time. It gets oxidized and it starts giving bad smell. So you need to consume it in the form of seed, where it is stored very well. And if you have to consume in the oil, then it needs to be encapsulated. Then it is fine to use. But the proportion of omega-6, alpha, omega-6 and linolenic acid, that is omega-3 fatty acid, that is probably ideal in case of linseed. It's extremely, means better than even walnuts and almonds. And that is the only agricultural source for omega-3 fatty acids. Fish oil has omega-3 fatty acids, so many a times it is proposed to have fish oil capsules. But if you see, not that each and every fish oil will have omega-3. Fish, they consume sea algae high in omega-3 fatty acid. Only those fish have omega-3 fatty acid in that fish oil. So it's not that it is very routinely available in those.